Hello there, hope you are doing well. Before starting this session, I want to tell you something that if you know SQL and if you don't know the triggers or stored procedures, then you are having very less knowledge in SQL. This would not be my perspective, and I'm not saying this. This would be the perspective of the interviewer who will be taking your interview when you are giving an interview for a specific job role. And if you are saying that I don't know about triggers or you don't know what are triggers and how triggers are created, so he will definitely think like this. So that's why it is very important for you to understand the triggers, and hence we are going to talk about the triggers, and I will tell you the syntax to create the trigger, and I will give you the exact real world example for trigger to understand that how triggers work and what actually triggers are. So first of all, I will be telling you the trigger. What is trigger? Now, triggers are main database object basically, but I want to give you a real world based or just simpler explanation for that. Triggers are self-executing SQL statement or set of SQL statements which would be executed when a specific course of action happens. This is the basic definition that for just for your understanding, I'm just telling you. They are self-executing. They are executed automatically whenever a specific course of action happens. Now, what is that course of action? That course of action depends upon you because you are creating the triggers, so you can create that course of action, and that course of action could be of three types: insert, update, or delete SQL statements. You can apply the triggers on a specific table. Whenever a data get inserted into a table, then that trigger could be executed. Whenever data got updated or deleted, then the trigger can be executed. So that's what the meaning of this, that's what the meaning of the course of action happens, and that's why I want to tell you about the triggers today. And these triggers are basically used for creating a programming like structure in SQL, because it is completely like a programming. You can also apply for loop. It is relatable with for loop, but it is for loop. You can apply if conditions and triggers. All these things can be used while creating a trigger. That's why I'm saying this. Now let's see the standard definition for the triggers. Triggers are the database objects that are associated with a table and are automatically executed in response to certain events or actions that occur on that table. So those actions or events could be insert, update, or delete. These are the actions. So that's what the meaning of trigger. I hope it is clear. And now let me give you a programming related example so that you will be able to understand properly and very well. So let's assume that you are having a fun function. In this fun function, you have written several lines of code, and before all those lines of code, a check fun function is written, and that check fun function is here, check fun, and some lines of code are written into this check fun function also. So what happens is, whenever we will call this function, whenever we will call this function, then check fun function will automatically get executed. That is the basic example of trigger. Means this is the trigger that you have applied on this function. Just assume that I'm just trying to relate it with the programming language. This fun function, just assume that this function could be insert, update, or delete. You have created the fun function in such a way that whenever someone will call this fun function, then check fun function would be executed first, and then the remaining set of instructions would be executed. So that's what the actual case in trigger also. You are creating triggers for a table in such a way that whenever any insert statement, it is completely up to you. If you want to create trigger for insert, then you can create the trigger for insert. If you want to create trigger for delete or update, then it is completely up to you. Sorry for that. Okay, delete or update. So it completely depends. Now just assume that you are having a table, let's say product table. We are having a product table, and product table could have multiple columns, and when someone will add data into product, then it is possible that he will add invalid data. So in that case, for performing the check or for performing check on each column or a specific column of this product table where you think that invalid data could be added, so you can apply trigger into or trigger on it, that whenever any insert statement on the product table would be executed, then this trigger should be executed. or automatically this trigger will check it. If that data is valid, then it will add that data into the table, or it will allow that data to be added into the table. Otherwise it will alter that data with the valid data. So that is what the meaning of trigger. I hope these things are clear. And as everyone is a programmer here, that's why I have given this type of example, so that you can relate it with any programming language that you know. So I hope these things are clear, and this example would be helpful for us to understand the before and after keyword in triggers. So let's see that how to create a trigger, or the syntax to create a trigger. As you already know that for creating anything in SQL or MySQL or whatever RDBMS, we should have to use create SQL statement. So for creating triggers also we will use create, and for what you want to create, so we want to create trigger, so we will have to type trigger, and then we will have to give the name of the trigger for the identification of it. So we will have to give the name of the trigger, and then we will have to give before or after keyword. Before or after keyword. Now what does it mean as before or after keyword? Like, let me tell you that where you can use before and where you can use after keyword. Before can be used for checking or modification purpose. Checking or modification. Or after can be used for the for keeping track on the report, or for storing the data, or for storing the data, keeping track. Like before, let's assume that whatever example that I have taken, that if someone is writing invalid, without someone will try to insert invalid data into a table, then you will perform some check on it. So for performing this type of checks, then you will write before keyword, before insert. Then you will write before insert here. And on which table? On products table. On products. Like this. Before insert on product. Whenever someone will try to insert the data on product table, then what happens is, because of this before keyword that you have given, before insert you have given, before that insert, this would be executed. This SQL statement, or the trigger code that you will be writing in between of this bigger begin and end statement, that would be executed. That code would be executed, and then insert statement would be executed, or whatever insert statement which is came to be inserted, or the data which is came to be inserted on the product table would be executed. So that's how you can understand this. The before keyword, when you can be used for checking and modification purpose. If Now if we talk about the after keyword, then let's assume that we are having employees table. Let's assume that we are having employees table, and in employees table we are having multiple employees records, multiple employee record. Now what happens is, whenever a employee left from a company, so we will have to delete his data from the employees table. So where should we store it? We need to keep track on those people who left the company. So where we will store it? So for that thing we will create a trigger, that whenever any data got deleted from employee table, or after deleting the data from employees table, that data should be added on employee left table. A new table would be created which is named as employee left, or left employees, and the data which was deleted from the employees table would be added into left employees table. So we will be able to keep the track of those people, or those employees who were left. So that's why these type of things can be used, and in that case you can use after keyword, because after deleting the employee you will have to add data into another table. So that's why in this case we will use after delete, after delete on employees. So I hope this thing is clear, that what do you mean by before and after keyword, because these are the most important keyword that you should know in triggers, and we will be creating. That's why I'm just discussing the syntax today, and in the next session I will create the before keyword, or I will create a trigger based on before keyword and after keyword separately. So you will be able to understand it properly, or you will be able to create the triggers by yourself, and then you will have to tell that on which table you want to apply this before or after, or insert, update, or delete statement of the trigger. So you will have to tell the name, as I have already told you, on which table you want to apply this. So after this, on which table, if you want to apply this for each row, then you can give for each row. This is relatable with the for loop. For loop. For each row, that specific trigger would be executed. Then you will have to write the begin statement. Begin statement or begin keyword is completely like the curly brace that we give when we want to define a function. And end statement is completely like the last curly brace that we give, or close curly brace that we give for ending the function in programming languages. So that's completely relatable with the functions that we create, but there is a small difference in syntax. So we will be clearing it in the next session. And in between of this begin and end keyword, you will have to write the trigger code or the SQL statement that you want to execute. And it is not necessary that you will have to write the SQL statements only. It is you can declare the variables. You can declare the variables. You can define the variables. You can write the if conditions. Anything you want, everything you can do here. So that you can write the actual programming language in SQL also using triggers. That's why these are very very important. So I hope these things are clear about the triggers. And if you are having any problem related to triggers, then please comment below or leave your all your doubts in comments. I will try to solve your problem as soon as possible. And if that doubt is in majority, then I will create a separate video for you all. So that's what I want to tell you about it. Thank you for today. Meet you in the next session with the triggers. Thank you.